The 2017 Minnesota Vikings saw their best regular season since 1998 and had their deepest playoff run since 2009. So it goes to show, to accomplish this feat, they had to have some fantastic NFL players. So today, we're going to break down the top 10 2017 Minnesota Vikings.
12 seconds to go in the game. Niners lead by 4. Bill fires the right side.
At number 10, we're going to have one of the biggest off-season pickups, left tackle Riley Reiff. Now I know Riley Reiff may not be a superstar on the team, but he was one of the biggest reasons we got to where we were. On the season, he had 15 games played, only missing one. He only had 4 penalties for 35 yards, and only gave up 4 sacks for 20 yards on the year. And let's see what we would have had without him. So the Vikings' other option was to re-sign Matt Kalil. Last season, for the Panthers, Matt Kalil started all 16 games. He gave up 7 penalties for 75 yards, 8 sacks for 62 yards. That is almost double the penalty yardage and about 3 times the sack yardage. If we would have had Matt Kalil on our team, Case Keenum would have been harassed week in, week out from the blind side and be scrambling around for his life every single week. If we have Matt Kalil at left tackle, Riley Reiff may not be nationally recognized as a great left tackle, but he stabilized the position the Vikings have been hurt at for years. At number 9, we have linebacker Anthony Barr. Barr played in all 16 games on the year, got 75 tackles, 52 of which were solo, 1 sack. He also notched 6 pass defense, 3.5 run stuffs, and 6 quarterback hurries on the year. And his stat line doesn't begin to tell the story that Anthony Barr was the Vikings defense on the year. He was the leader in the middle of the defense, one of the veterans on the field, and flying around. Horizontal, vertical, he could cover everywhere you needed him to be, and he could screen stuff runs. A fantastic outside linebacker. At number 8, we have backup turned starter Case Keenum. Keenum, by all accounts, could have lost the Viking season. After Sam Bradford got hurt with his mystery injury, Case Keenum took the control of the Vikings offense and put up very good numbers, and at his best, he looked like a poor man's Russell Wilson, avoiding pressure in the pocket and completing passes downfield. Looking at his stat line, he played in 15 games, only starting 14. He completed 325 out of 481 passes for 67.6%, and that is 3,547 yards. He had 236.5 yards a game. He had 22 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions and 22 sacks. This is where I was saying poor man's Russell Wilson. This could have easily been in the 30s if Case Keenum wasn't avoiding pressure and keeping his eyes up and completing the pass. Sometimes only 4 yards, sometimes it was 30. Case Keenum was a big reason our offense stayed alive and was one of the best offenses on the year. His numbers, yards, he was 12th in the league, and he was 12th at pass touchdowns and 24th in interceptions. Case went from a nobody to a leader of one of the best offenses in the NFL. At number 7, we have a guy that has a nose for 6. Tight end Kyle Rudolph. He played in all 16 games, even though being hurt throughout the final quarter of the year. He still ended the year with 57 receptions for 532 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was the heart and soul of the Vikings' red zone offense and was one of the best premier red zone targets in the entire NFL. Not only was Rudy a fantastic receiving tight end, he put up fantastic blocking numbers as well, paving the way for Minnesota running backs throughout the year. At number 6, perhaps the most beloved Minnesota Viking, number 19, wide receiver Adam Thielen. Thielen was perhaps the most consistent force felt on the Vikings offense. Playing in all 16 games, he recorded 91 receptions and 1,276 yards, our first 1,000-yard receiver since Sidney Rice. He also recorded 4 touchdowns on the year and was just an absolute force. Went through some of his games where he was phenomenal in. Starting off week 1, right off the bat, against New Orleans, 9 receptions, 157 yards. Week 3, goes back at it again, 5 receptions for 98 yards. Week 6, 9 for 96. And week 8, 5 for 98. And we're not even halfway done with the season. This was the type of year Adam Thielen had. The ability to explode whenever the team needed him. Thielen was there. Call number 19, and he would always pick up the phone. At number 5, we go to Adam Thielen's receiving mate, Stefon Diggs. The debate, who is better, Thielen or Diggs, has been back and forth in my head for over a year. And this time, it's got pushed where Stefon finally has the edge. Throughout the year, he had 64 receptions, 849 yards, which were both less than Thielen, but what he excelled in was putting points up on the board. Throughout the year, he scored 8 touchdowns, which was double Adam Thielen's 4 touchdowns throughout the year, and that was with Stefon Diggs missing 2 games due to injury. And this is also despite his 6 foot, 190 pound frame. He was still able to box out receivers and ended up being a better finisher than Adam Thielen was throughout the season. These last 4 are all incredibly close. The elite members of the Vikings defense. And we're going to start up front. Number 4, defensive tackle Linval Joseph, the most underrated player on the whole Vikings team. The defense would not be anything without the big man up front taking the double teams. He sits between the center and the guard, has to fight through that, can't get pushed back in order to get the linebackers free to make the tackles. His numbers aren't off the charts, but they are very good for a nose tackle. On the year, he had 68 tackles and 3.5 sacks. And really, the whole defense starts with Linval getting through the double teams, making the plays, or letting the rest of the defense make the plays because he did his job up front. You can't say enough about Linval. You could really make the case that he's the number 1 player on the defense because nobody else would be able to be as phenomenal if it wasn't for Linval doing all the dirty work up front. At number 3, we have a 6'3", 270 pound of Monster energy drink, Everson Griffin. Everson Griffin is the energy, the life, the soul of the whole Vikings team. He is the leader of the defensive line, but energizes the entire defense, and that continues and helps the offense produce on the field as well. Everson, playing in 15 games, notched 13 sacks, and started out the year phenomenally consistent, getting a sack and almost a consecutive game record to start off the year. 13 sacks is very good, but doesn't even start to show how important Everson Griffin is to the Vikings team, consistently being a factor on the blind side of opposing quarterbacks, getting in there, letting the rest of the team surround him. He's also very good on the run, stuffing mini runs on the year. So Everson Griffin really could be the number 1 spot as well, but the lack of production in the second half of the year makes him sit at number 3. Number 2, at times, the most dominant defensive player on the team, Xavier Rhodes. If you have a team with the number 1 receiver, they will not produce when they play the Vikings. That is the Xavier Rhodes factor. Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, all these #1 receivers, Odell Beckham Jr., don't have a chance. They see big 6'1", 218-pound, number 29 quarterback Xavier Rhodes staring them down across from them. Xavier's stats on the year aren't impressive at all. 56 tackles and 2 interceptions. Whoop-de-doo, how's he on this list? Well, he would have higher stats if the team didn't watch the last week's film and didn't see how good of a shutdown corner Xavier Rhodes is and decides, hey, let's throw at Trey Waynes instead. Xavier Rhodes is so good, his stats can't get any higher because the other team don't give him a chance. At #1, the Vikings are loaded with fantastic defensive players, but not one does as many things well as Harrison Smith. He's listed as a safety, but really can go anywhere you want him to go on the field. You want him to play in the middle of the field, but at a free safety position? Sure. You want him to play a little bit lower in the box? At strong safety? Yeah, why not? The offense shifts into a run formation. You want Harrison Smith to slide in a linebacker position? Yeah, he can do it. He's gonna blitz off the edge. You want him to line up as a defensive end? He'll do that as well. You have a slot receiver you want Harrison Smith to man up on? Yeah, he can do that too. You have a tight end that you want Harrison Smith to be a man in coverage on? Yep, you guessed it. He can do everything as well as anybody in the NFL on the year. 78 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 5 interceptions. Maybe the most impressive stat, 12 pass defense on the year. Harrison Smith, really the jack of all trades on the Vikings defense, and it really couldn't go to anybody else. There's people that are great at what they do. Harrison Smith does so many things so good for the Vikings. Nobody else deserves the #1 spot more than Harrison Smith. So give me your thoughts on my list in the comments. Give me your list in the comment section as well. There'll be a poll at the end of this video of who you think's the #1 player on the Vikings. And the question of the day, well, hey, the Vikings got a new quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Where do you see him being on a list like this come next year? Well, there's my thoughts. Give me yours in the comments. We'll see you guys in the next JOZ Vikings video. See you guys then.